All right, Battletech enthusiasts, we're going to shift from the Tactica to the hobby here for a moment with an unboxing, some Battletech terrain from Wargame Forge. And underneath this video in the info box, I'm going to put links to the Etsy store and eBay page for Wargame Forge, where you guys can check out the full range, the full line of this terrain. And we've got an interesting mix of some various pieces to showcase here today. Let's pull out a couple of mechs for scale. I have randomly selected these mechs, although a few, of course, are some of my favorites. And we're going to start with the first piece. They're all impressive, but when I saw this piece in the sampling, I was like, wow, a mech command tower. Futuristic sci-fi. These are unprimed, unpainted, fantastic detail, excellent scale, literally ready to plug and play. Let's get down to the tabletop level here. So that's going to fit the scale. We've got the command center. Next up is a factory. First thing that really hit me with this piece, and I think this is something that we want to have diversity in our Battletech terrain, because we're really trying to pull in two things. Of course, naturally we're trying to pull in the visuals. If we're going to play with 3D terrain and we're going to play with mechs, you can do it on a hex map. But if we're going the true scale, then I want a mix of different terrain types to both give and take advantages, to offer tactical choices. And with a terrain piece like this, let's pull back the command tower. A terrain piece like this, we can have a mech behind it, and it is completely concealed. But being level 2, that also means we're going to have some mechs with the ability to jump up on top of it. And the scale is perfect to put some mechs up there. And doing that tactically, of course, now you're faced with the decision, do I jump up and take those free shots on maybe another mech, this commando doing a little recon here, while at the same time potentially exposing myself to other shots from other mechs on the tabletop. So what I really liked about the Battletech line that Wargame Forge has is they've got really, really big pieces to centrally dominate the table, but also pieces that are going to give you cover, tactical advantages, the ability to jump on, you know, that level 1, that level 2, that level 3. We're going to try and have those choices. There's also a number of themed pieces, and I was really excited about this next piece here. A mech bay. You know, something that I've never really seen and that I've wanted to be able to play. So think about the tactical options with a themed piece like this. Again, perfectly scaled to the mechs. So this could be part of a mission, something very, very specific. We have to take and hold or grab some lost tech. If we get a little bit creative in the moment, maybe it's something along the lines of agreeing ahead of time, of course. I'm open for any suggestion, but I would love to play a piece like this where you can have your mech hooked up to it. So if you're hooked up, let's say it gives you an advantage of a coolant truck. That's big. I mean, that would be big right here on the awesome. But the disadvantage is you're not moving, right? You have to be stationary. You're hooked up. You can't move. You can't walk. You can't jump. Is that worth the trade-off? Is that worth the trade-off? So I'm really interested to see tactical pieces like this where we can utilize it in narrative-based games. There's also some interesting entry points that I was really pleased to see in a piece like this, where you can have your mech duck into one of the corners, to move into one of the corners and hide out. So we have 4 different spots to move in, maybe run around, do a lot of interesting things. So they had a lot of very, very unique themed pieces to pull the imagination. If you've been following my channel, you guys know I love City Fight. I love City Tech. There's a lot of Battletech tactica going on in terms of mastery of the game. And again, we're seeing one of these hab block, city blocks here, where you can have one of your mechs hide behind there. It's scaled high enough that we can have a mech on top. And the level of detail is fantastic. From the little doors down there on the bottom, Z-scale to the windows. But they also offer a range of ruined and damaged buildings. And this is something that I try to pull into all of my 3D tabletop Battletech games to simulate actual battle damage. Now, the great thing about Battletech, of course, the rules being the rules, you can bolt on as many different rules as you want. You can play the terrain as being destructible. So we can do that where it's assigned a value and it takes enough damage, it collapses, damaging infantry or damaging mechs on top. Or we can just play this as kind of an abstract piece where you can hit it and the narrative takes some damage, but it's not going to be destroyed. Personally, I like to play with destructibles. And what really impressed me on the line of buildings is that they have different versions for each building. So we're playing this. You're hanging out behind there. This is why in City Fight, City Tech, I always bring a pair of Demolisher tanks. Preferably 2 if I've got higher battle value. You put 4 autocannon 20s into that, it's going to level that building. But we can swap it out before it gets leveled for a damaged effect building. And again, check out the detail on that. Print and play, ready to go. So literally, if we're playing the game, you hit that with 2 PPCs, it's got 20 points left. We replace it with this for the visuals. So now we're aware. And when you finally flatten it, we'll replace it with a completely ruined base. So they also have a complete range of destroyed, destructible templates. And I really like this idea simply because tactically it does change the battlefield. Tactically it changes the battlefield. When you go from a ruined building to now the shell of it, certainly it's not going to give cover to that awesome behind it. And most mechs will probably be able to move through it, but infantry, it's going to interact with. Certain vehicles, it might interact with. So to be able to have this place marker and remember it and have it be true WYSIWYG, that's awesome. So I could see definitely getting involved in these 3 sets of buildings and having that matched for each piece on the table, fully destructible. We've got a couple of other buildings, and then we're going to jump into some modular pieces. So different types of buildings. We've got some further battle damage. To be able to build out and put something like this where you have ways to maneuver. I like the idea of irregularly shaped buildings in that now as we move through, you can move through, but it's not a straight line. You're going to have to burn a couple of movement points to be able to pivot and turn. So having kind of a labyrinth of ways and places that you can kind of move through this city, very interesting, very tactical. Let's pull out the next set of pieces. I'm already thinking of some really great narrative games. Go down to mech level. Got to have these guys line up. It's just habit. Got some sci-fi, futuristic habitat, command and control to build these out, but the pieces are also stackable. So now we can have, let's stack a few up. Make some really tall towers. We can have level 1, level 2, level 3, higher, more impassable. Building a little bit higher, if we're playing with some air support, you're not going to be able to get fully down. You're going to have to go airwolf and kind of navigate those things. But having a number of smaller pieces like this, I was really excited to see that in the range, because just with the configuration of pieces like this, you can have a really kind of dense city. Again, to literally fight over and change, very modular, swapping in and out. So the next video, because I'm already thinking, the next video, let's do some tactica on this idea of terrain giving advantages and disadvantages. And from the perspective of, if we're going to bring in 3D terrain, I believe there should always be an advantage and a disadvantage. First thought right here. So let's put the Atlas, excuse me, the Awesome. Put that Awesome right there. Advantage, level 1 cover. That's going to be beast. That Awesome is just going to sit there firing those PPCs. It's got a nice little bunker ready to go. The disadvantage is I'm anchored here. I'm anchored here. So with this terrain, what that means is if I can get a mech to assault head on, would I throw a Wolverine? I might. I'm going to need some backup. But if we kind of pull in the classic chain of command World War II fire team tactica, lock in here, get to danger close where we're firing, and then have another mech work its way around to the rear. And if that's a Jenner or something that's got a lot of zappy, even against the rear armor, against an Awesome, that's got some bite. So tactically, something like this, what it presents is I have to make a decision. Now, obviously, if I'm engaging straight on, I've got that Wolverine there engaging straight on, or even if it was a Battlemaster, tactically, I'm just going to stay put, especially if I can fire those 3 PPCs, not develop any heat, not bring in any heat. I've got the redundancy. It's just perfect. But in staying there, if there's something that can outflank, and it might not be a mech, it could be some fast-moving hovers, it could be some attack units, attack helicopters, warriors. Fritz, your answer to everything is warriors and Karnovs. Yeah, it could. Drop some infantry back in there, get a little Airwolf going. Now I have to decide, do I want to stay there and get the advantage of the level 1 cover, or do I want to redeploy and maybe move somewhere else? So as I look through this terrain and I explore all these terrain pieces, that's really what I'm asking myself. Tactically, how can we utilize these? Tactically, how can we pull these pieces in? Even so much in leveling buildings. Where are we going to level them? What are we going to do? How are we going to build it out? Let's take a look at that next. And again, this is a sampling of easily a couple of dozen different terrain pieces, build options, city fight, wargaming terrain, Battletech terrain from Wargame Forge. And I'm going to put that link, again, underneath this video in the info box, links to the Etsy site and the eBay store.